Say it. Patient. That's how it's supposed to go.
I missed the train. I should have used a Rocky Horror Show.
That's it. We could have done Time Warp, or Damn It, Janet, or one of those other songs, Hey, man, I know that film. My daughter's a huge fan of that. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. You're catching a little bit of the conversation we have off camera, and since it's Halloween, or Halloween Eve, we are already making Rocky Horror jokes, and I said we're running late, and it's because, we're going to build up the anticipation. Say it! Patient. So, those of you who've seen Rocky Horror should get that joke, I would hope. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich.
Honestly, I have never seen Rocky Horror movie.
You are deprived. Depraved and deprived.
Well, there we go. The truth is out.
You need to see a midnight showing. You have to understand why you throw rice. What's the bread for? What's the water pistols for? All that stuff. And then, of course, now they've got, we always have people dressed in the costumes, but now they have the show after the show where people act out some of the scenes from the movie. So, that's the added bonus.
You got to bear in mind now, I live in North Louisiana. I don't live in the cultural center that is New Orleans.
There's nothing cultural about Rocky Horror Picture Show, believe me.
When it came to traditional Halloween,
not a cultural thing.
When it came to traditional Halloween stuff, I remember vividly going to see Night of the Living Dead, the original zombie movie.
The George Powell version, I think it is. No,
George Romero.
George Romero. George Powell is Time Machine. And War of the Worlds. Yeah, George Romero. Sorry.
Yeah.
My science fiction fan friends are yelling at me right now. How could you make that mistake?
We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We're so off topic, but that is the giddy euphoria that comes with being 6-1, getting that win back. Blah 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 blah. And we're going to get into this in a little while, but I hate to burst anyone's bubble. While it was fantastic to move to 6-1, it was just another game on the schedule. It doesn't mean anything when that clock hits 000, except for one mark in the win column and no extra mark in the loss columns.
Well, it could mean playoff seeding later on.
Well,
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're going to talk about that in a little while as well. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Invite everyone to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us. Want to wish a very, very happy birthday to my baby sister, Angel Stennett. Today is, that's going to make the next family gathering too interesting, so I'm not going to say how old she is. But I hope that she's had a fantastic day. Love you, baby sister. Who dat, baby? Also, we want to invite everyone to come out this Saturday night, 5 to 7 in Metairie at Impastado's Restaurant. All of you guys that have watched our show, that have supported us, we would love the opportunity to get to meet you and get to shake your hand, take a picture with you, anything. We want to, as added bonus, there's going to be an NFL Hall of Famer there, Ricky Jackson. There's going to be 3 other former Saints, Torrance Small, Tyrone Hughes, Quinn Early. If you need that extra incentive after considering that we're going to be there. I couldn't even say that with a straight face. But, they're doing this thing as benefit to raise money for Alzheimer's research, which is a very, very worthwhile cause that we were more than happy to lend our time and our name too. So we invite everyone to come out, meet us, meet the guys, have a good time. We look forward to seeing everybody. That's Impastados in Metairie, 5 to 7, Saturday night, the 3rd. Forget about that little minor skirmish going on in Baton Rouge that night. There may just be a TV. I've never been to Impastados. I can't speak to that. There may be a TV somewhere. If not, we've always got modern technology. We'll keep you posted on the score. Anyway, boy, I tap dance through that like a landmine field.
There you go.
Back to Minneapolis. I have a buddy that he started his show Monday morning saying that he was still waiting for the miracle. You know, the one that they talked about all this time for 9 months, and especially on Sunday, all day long. All they could talk about was that Minneapolis miracle. And, you know, that got me to thinking. I use that to segue this thought process that I had. You know, if the Vikings had gone on to even play in the Super Bowl, much less win the Super Bowl, but if they had advanced beyond the Eagles, sure, that would be probably a more meaningful moment than what it wound up being. As it turned out, it was just a really neat ticket place commercial to have. And I'm sure if you're a Vikings fan, it was everything. But you know, there were two direct results that came from the Minneapolis Miracle that immediately come to my mind. The Vikings got to extend their season by 7 days. And then they got skull drug. See what I did there? In Philadelphia by the Eagles on their way to the Super Bowl. That's what the Vikings got out of that. You know, the Saints got something out of it too. The Vikings got to extend their season. The Saints, they just got better. You can call it motivation. You can call. I don't necessarily buy into all of that revenge, redemption stuff. It was just another game of the season. Sure, it'll be important down the road, but you know, you pull up that schedule, and as you check Minnesota off, you look underneath it, and there's bigger fish to fry. It was very important, not only for the Saints to go into Minneapolis and get this win, but I would dare say that it was equally as important for them to go in and get the win the way that they did. I think that the defense coming up the way that they did and basically saying, guys, we got it. That was, to me, that was a throwback to the team that you saw in the last month of the season last year. The offense may not be hitting on all cylinders, but the defense is going to throw that team on their back and say, guys, we got this. And you saw that. You saw the up to now ineffectual maybe or underachieving, let me put it that way, defensive line unit took over that game. Sheldon Rankins, 2 sacks. The rookie, Davenport, 2 sacks. Now, all the defense didn't have stellar games. And I'm not going to go on a tirade about someone that does not deserve to have a shirt with my name on it. I digress for the moment. We're going to get to him eventually. I hope that, oh God, I hope he's eating out of a dumpster behind Wendy's somewhere. God. And that feeling towards PJ Williams has simmered down a whole lot since Sunday. If you would have asked me prior to that Adam Thielen fumble, oh my! We try to keep this PG-13 ish, so I'm not going to tell you my exact thoughts on PJ Williams in the first quarter and a half of that game. I was not pleased. Let's just say that. I think he's a liability. Sure, he was in on the Adam Thielen turnover.
He helped cause it.
Yeah, well, okay. He was on the field when it happened.
He did a little more than that, but yeah, he and Anzalone really hit that ball just right.
I don't mean to minimize what he did during those plays. When he's on, he's on.
Well, you got the best.
He got the pick six as well, but
yeah.
At the same time, you look back prior to that, he gave up 2 touchdown catches, had a pass interference in the end zone that gave them first and goal from the 1 at the same, which turned out to be another touchdown. So basically, in a roundabout way, you could say that PJ Williams was at least partially responsible for almost every point they scored.
Yeah, you could. You could.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is at what point does his being a liability, regardless of what he does with the fumble, the forced fumble, the pick six, at what point does that not be enough? You know, if he doesn't give up, and the touchdowns that he gave up were, they were the ugliest defensive plays I believe I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
At what point does it become more important to defend the pass than it is to gamble that this guy is going to make a big play here or there down the line?
Are you asking me that, or is that a rhetorical question?
Both.
I mean, what you saw, at least PJ Williams in a nutshell, for that game. Now, granted, the Vikings' game plan was to exploit PJ Williams, just like the Atlanta Falcons' game plan 4 weeks ago was to exploit PJ Williams. They saw what Calvin Ridley did to him in the Atlanta Falcons game. So they put Thielen on him. They moved Diggs to the slot and put him on him. So they knew that you've got 2 of the top receivers in the NFL against the weakest cornerback on the field. What are you going to get? This is exactly what you're going to get. And yeah, it was very frustrating because where do you go? Where do the Saints go? Okay, we're going to bench PJ Williams. So who comes out there? Well, Crawley's inactive, and Crawley's already on the Saints fans' hate list. So you have Justin Hardy left. Are you going to put a special teams guy out there against Thielen, who's leading the NFL in receptions and yardage, or Diggs, who is a fast receiver? 2 of the top 10 receivers out there. It's the Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley problem. You know, a smart team is going to match up. And we do the same thing. We put Michael Thomas in the slot because we want to see Michael Thomas lined up against that team's worst cornerback, whoever the hell it is. It's like in the NFL. And playing a cornerback in today's NFL where everything is pass interference, it's so hard to do because the defensive lineman can't just go rush and go kill a quarterback. You know what I was watching today at lunch? I was watching, and you guys can Google this on YouTube. Go look up Wilbur Marshall's sack on Joe Ferguson from 1985 when Joe Ferguson was playing for the Lions. I remember when in the America's game on the Bears, the 85 Bears, Mike Singletary says, we thought he killed him because he hits Ferguson in the chest and in the head area, this area up here, hits him. Ferguson is flat and falls on the ground, and his arms spray out like this. He doesn't move. So, yeah, it looks like he killed him. And Ferguson's about a 13-year vet by this time. And back then, a 13-year vet back then was like a Kenny Stabler-looking guy. Gray hair, grizzly, bad knees, that whole bit. Not like today, So Ferguson is laid out. Then, for fun, go ahead and Google Eric Hipple. This is the Lions quarterbacks here. Eric Hipple, I think it was a week before this game, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Eric Hipple gets destroyed by Tampa Bay. Hipple rolls out to go look for a pass and tucks it down, starts to run. Well, this safety or linebacker, I'm not sure which it was, from Tampa, comes out of nowhere, bulldozes him face first, leads with the crown of the helmet into the, today it would be a sea of flags, penalties all over the place. Eric Hipple goes this way, his helmet goes that way, and he's sprayed out on the grass at the old Big Sombrero stadium that Tampa used to play in. My point is, you can't play defense like that anymore. So defensive linemen don't just pin their ears back and come after some guy to hit them. They got to watch. They got to watch everything. And if that quarterback lets the ball go, you have to back off. You can't go and touch him, because if you touch him a second after the ball is gone, it's a flag, roughing the passer. If you go too low and get him at the knees to the ankles, that's roughing the passer. If you lay on him, put all your weight on the quarterback, that's roughing the passer. All these rules. So what I'm trying to say is the defensive linemen have a harder time rushing the quarterback, so they're slower. Quarterbacks have more time to throw. That puts more pressure on defensive backs to cover for a longer amount of time. So if you have a weak cornerback, like a P.J. Williams, that makes it so much harder for a player like him with his physical limitations. And I mean that from the standpoint of compared to a Marcus Lattimore, compared to a Deion Sanders, Mel Blount, just pick your best cornerbacks in the NFL history. Okay.
Lester Hayes.
Lester Hayes. Well, Lester Hayes had Stickum helping him. But I mean, that's my point though. Unless you're gifted with a lot of speed and great leaping ability, you can really open those hips and turn, and you can cover a guy for 5 to 6 seconds. It makes it so much harder for a guy like P.J. Williams matched up against a receiver who knows what he's going to do and to create separation. This is what you're going to get. So all you can hope for now to balance that out is the pick six, the forced fumble, because they're going to get their yards. If you think about it, what happened after Minnesota scored 13 points? And we talked about this. I talked about this in my review of the game. They get ready to move to get to at least 16. I'm sorry. What was the score? It was 13 to 7 or 13-10. I'm sorry, 13-10. They're going to get at least 16, if not a touchdown, to make it 20. I'm sorry. I got the hiccups. And I didn't mean to get started on this. But, they're in a position to score and really take a commanding lead.
Yeah.
P.J. Williams makes that play, and it turns all the momentum around. And, it made P.J. Williams' job a little bit easier, because now Minnesota had to start throwing the ball to get back into the game. And that helped him, because now he can rely on more of a pass rush that is not also looking for the run. and they can put their hands up, knock balls down, which Cam Jordan got too. They can rush up the middle, and that affects, a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. And, of course, Davenport a good game. And that helped Williams get a better game in the second half. But I understand what you're saying. And that's why I'm saying it bothers me. And I was just as frustrated as you were for the first 28 minutes. I'm wishing bodily harm to, Thielen and Diggs. I'm wishing that Peyton just gets a hatchet man out there, a guy that can get ejected, just to go out there and just do something dirty, just to knock this guy out the game, like they used to do in the old days.
You going back to the Raiders now?
Yeah, give me a hatchet guy, a guy that hey man, we lose him, it doesn't matter. He did his job. You got him got somebody else out of the game. That's all we needed. And let's see him try and win, because I was frustrated. I was like, the Vikings can't win this game without passes to Thielen and Diggs. That was my attitude. They can't win this game. They can't win this game running the football. They can only win this game with Thielen and Diggs. Now one of those two gone. I wanted to see them try and win with Treadwell.
We got a huge gimme with their kicker missing that extra point.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row. But there was something that happened, a residual effect, if you will, off of that Thielen fumble. If you think about it, go back and that was, I think, right at 2 minutes before the half, correct?
A minute. I went back and looked. It was a minute left in the game. In the half. Sorry, the half.
Okay. For the entire third quarter, and because we had that long drive that consumed most of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. For the entire third quarter and into the fourth quarter, the Vikings refused to go to the league's leading receiver as a result of that fumble.
Well, yeah, two things that happened in the second half. In the second half, because the Saints had the momentum, and it was now 17-13, you saw Zimmer go for it on fourth down on his own 45. Instead of punting the Saints deep and trusting his defense, he felt like any minute now, Breeze is just going to crank it up, and we can't stop him. Because he knew he didn't have Xavier Rhodes back there, and he knew he had some, Sendejo was missing, a couple other players were missing. So he was going to try and win this game with his offense. And instead of running the football or doing a quarterback sneak, he went to a 4 or 5 wide. I think it was a 5 wide, nobody in the backfield on 4th and 1. And he didn't trust Cousins to run a quarterback sneak out of that formation. Anything like that. He went straight to the pass, and the pass got batted down, I think, by Lattimore. And the Saints got a field goal out of that. They made it 20-10 out of that drive. The next possession is the interception, the pick 6. So it makes it 27-13 now. And from that point on, they weren't sure how to play the Saints anymore. Yeah. They did not go back to Thielen. You're correct. Thielen never got another pass his way. They tried using Diggs. Diggs had the interception really on him because he cut his route off. He stopped running. So from that point on, they started trying to force the ball to Treadwell, which is really strange, And I think they went 3 and out on that next possession.
They did.
Yeah, and then the Saints went on that long drive you're talking about. They finished off the third quarter, carried over to the fourth quarter, and they got a field goal out of it.
Yeah.
But the Vikings then went on a bizarre 17 or 18 play drive.
No sense of urgency whatsoever.
No, huddling like 3 and 4 times. And you're down 3 scores. huddling 3 or 4 times. I think it took them over 5 minutes to score a touchdown, and included a quarterback sneak. And that's what I felt like the Vikings almost gave up on that game in that fourth quarter. Looking at the
people
score.
scoffed at me in the week leading up to this game when I said that, Keenum may not have been your prototypical franchise quarterback, but he's a better leader on the field than Kirk Cousins. Because if you think back to not just the last week or the last game, but the Redskins game with us a year ago when Cousins was playing for Washington, he makes some of the most bizarre decisions.
Yeah, when the pressure's on him.
Yeah,
when pressure is on him to make a play, he tends to panic and make bad decisions.
Yes.
Sometimes it works out, but most of the time it doesn't. And I'm not putting the interception on Cousins. I'm putting the interception on Diggs because clearly that was a shallow cross, and he was expecting him to pop open, and he stopped running, and P.J. Williams kept running. The ball went right to him. I mean, there was nothing else. I mean, it was there, and there was nothing but green in front of him. So, it was a great play. I think earlier in that drive, I think 2 plays earlier was the sack by Davenport that they initially ruled a fumble, and then they overturned it because he was down.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought Zimmer made some other odd decisions.
Is
I thought
Zimmer
the challenge,
a defensive coach or an offensive coach?
Yes, defensive coach.
There you
go. In fact, he would have been a great defensive coordinator for the Saints. His son, Adam Zimmer, was an assistant with the Saints, and I think he is a defensive coordinator for the Vikings now. But Mike Zimmer came from the Bengals, and he would have been a great defensive coordinator for the Saints because he is a very good defensive. He's a good coach. Period. He's a very good defensive coach, and
he's got the Vikings playing at a very high level. And you're not going to hear me bash on the Vikings team. And if anything that I've said is misconstrued in that way, it is absolutely not meant to be. I underestimated. Well, first and foremost, the receiving corps.
Well, I didn't think we were going to be able to stop the receiving corps because that's what the Vikings do. They throw the football. They don't have a running game because Dalvin Cook can't stay healthy. And you're going to get some spurts out of the guy that got running for him right now came from the Raiders. I can't think of his name. Murray. Latavius Murray. You're going to get some spurts with him doing some stuff for you. But if they load the box up to stop him, he's not a guy who is going to run over people and get the additional yards.
Zimmer, not to interrupt you, but Zimmer does the same thing that Sean Payton did for so long.
Yeah.
There's so many. He'll give that running game a shot for about a series, and if it ain't there, he'll throw the game or he'll throw the bomb. But
well, he's got the receivers to do it. I mean, you cannot deny that Diggs and Thielen are 2 of the best receivers in the NFL.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I'll put Thielen against anybody. Yeah. Slot, number 1, number 2, I don't care. Thielen is a magnificent receiver. I cannot say enough about how very much impressed. I mean, even I've seen the kid play before, but how much I was impressed from with him from last year or from 9 months ago to where his game is right now. I can't say enough about that.
And they got Cousins because Cousins can throw the ball accurately.
Cousins is not a bad quarterback, but he is not going to be a Drew Brees. He's not going to be a Jared Goff. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's just not.
Well, he's in that next level. If you took your top 5 quarterbacks, okay, and you got Brady, Brees, Rodgers, and I'm not putting this in order, but Brady, Brees, Rodgers. You want to throw Mahomes up there now. You want to throw Goff up there now. That's fine, But you know who your top 3 are, and you can throw 4 and 5 are debatable. You get to that next tier. That's where, I can hear the Falcons fans already screaming at me. That's where your Matt Ryan is. Because outside of Matt Ryan's Pro Bowl and his MVP year, when he was up here, because of Shanahan, and Shanahan calling good plays for him, Matt Ryan. No, really, seriously. I mean, you look at Matt Ryan's Matt Ryan's career prior to Shanahan and Matt Ryan's career post Shanahan. You are seeing a quarterback who has dropped down to that second tier. And, then you start looking at guys like, I don't know, that's where Kirk Cousins fits in. He is in that second tier, possibly could take that next step, but it's going to take him a little work. A good offensive coordinator comes up with a good game plan that makes him, that next level passer like you did from Matt Ryan. Hell, I got to say this. We're not playing Carolina yet, but you can clearly see the effect Norv Turner's having on Cam Newton. He is not the inconsistent passer he used to be. He is becoming a more consistent passer. I don't have him up there yet. No. I have him second/third tier, and I know I can hear, Tony and all scream like, "What the hell?" But yeah, it's he is not the passer he could be yet. He needs to keep working to get to that point, because he has to become more accurate, more consistent.
You'll never hear me defend Cam Newton very often, but I think if Cam had the opportunity to concentrate on being a pocket passer rather than having to concentrate on being the entire offensive productivity of the Carolina Panthers, that could have turned out a lot differently.
I mean, he is a unique athlete, and you're stupid not to take advantage of his abilities. But at the same time, you have to. He can't be good at everything. It's kind of it's a trade-off. If the offense moves because you can run the football and you're a big, strong kid, you don't have to be an accurate timing passer. But what you're seeing with Norv Turner now is you're seeing him trying, work with Cam to get him to be more of a rhythm timing passer. So it's like, hey, you don't have to run. You can run if nothing's there. But think about passing, and we'll create concepts that get receivers open and make things easy for you. But, we're going to get you to be a passer first, a runner second, whereas Mike Schuler was definitely more, you're a runner first, a passer second. And that's why you had the wild inconsistency with him as as quarterback. But anyway, it's
been a gradual progression over the years. And what you see now is more of a concerted effort to make the professional game resemble much more what the college game is, for many reasons. Because if you're a college player and the game that you're moving to the next level into is more like what you played in college, sure, you're going to adapt to that, and you're going to be able to move on and move up and play much more effectually if the games are similar.
Yeah.
And I see you scoffing at me.
I mean
from the standpoint, basic in terms of this conversation, I'm talking about the game in terms of a quarterback, for example.
Well, there's too many reads you have to do in the NFL that you don't have to do in college, because people are wide open in college. I mean, wide open. You don't have to throw people open. There's only one quarterback in college football who I see consistently throwing people open, and that's the Alabama quarterback, Tua. I don't see anybody else do that. They just throw to the open guy. and it's one read and then tuck and run. That the spread offense, the wider hash marks, all that stuff makes college football a lot easier. Here's the thing, though, that you're seeing, and this is where I think you do see stuff from college game coming over to the pro game. And this goes back to what we were talking about with P.J. Williams. The league is writing rules and enforcing rules in such a way that makes defense almost impossible to play because they want the game. They want 30 to 40 kind of ball games. They want high-scoring games for two reasons. Number one, it keeps people interested in the game. They're finding out that millennials are really not watching NFL games. They're going to YouTube. They're going to NFL.com. They're going to all those websites just to see the highlights, okay?
Red Zone.
NFL Red Zone. So if you have a lot of scoring, you're pretty much watching the whole game anyway, okay? The second thing they want to do is they know fantasy football is a huge business right now. So if you have a lot of offense, you've got a lot of people playing fantasy with a lot of players in fantasy football. So the NFL is looking at those two things as kind of the future of how they want the league to go. They don't want a 7 to 14 ball game because people aren't going to sit and watch that. They're not,
and they're sure not going to make any fantasy points out of it.
No, they're not. I tell people all the time, I said, go back. They got a guy on YouTube who's got some Saints games from 1988. Go find those games, not the Denver game, okay? Go find, I don't know, Saints versus the Browns, opening day, I think, 1987, or maybe 88, I'm not sure. Or go find Saints versus the Falcons or Saints versus the Rams, and it's a low-scoring, very defensive-minded kind of game. You go back to the 70s, and they're running draw plays on 3rd and 8. They're not passing the ball. It was a totally different kind of game, very defensive heavy, with everything based on field position. Okay, you don't have that in today's game. Today's game, 99-yard drives, games with no punts involved at all. The punter doesn't even go out on the field on both sides are very common today. I didn't see one of those kind of games until the Rams versus the Bills, I think back in 1992, 93, right around that time. That was the first game I ever saw that never had a punt in the whole game. And I thought that was
a game that there was never a punt, though.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I remember that game.
Yeah, but look today. We've already had this at least 4 or 5 times this year. And, that's the future of the NFL. So, I know we're getting ready to talk about the Rams, but, here's something. The Rams just signed or traded for a pass rusher. Why do they trade for a pass rusher? Probably to free up Aaron Donald some more, get the double and triple teams off of him, get someone on the edge now the tackle's got to pay attention to or a tight end can't handle by himself, and free up Aaron Donald so they can get pressure on these quarterbacks because the Rams are playing shootouts. And that's not what they wanted with this all-star defense. So that's what I was trying to say when it comes to P.J. Williams and the issues you have with that. It's hard to play defense, hard to rush passers. So you've got to have an offense that's a heavy, high-scoring machine that you don't need to punt because that's the way you win football games now. You got a question? You're laughing. You're laughing about something. I don't know what it is.
I was laughing a comment on our live chat. They were talking about the 49ers Raiders game this Thursday, and
oh God,
somebody said, "Gotta love that 1-7 versus 1-7 on prime time."
I know. Well, you go from a game that has.
That was from Homer Damas, by the way.
Well, here's the thing. Saints play games with no punts involved, and we're going to get a game with nothing but punts involved with Raiders and 49ers. So,
yeah, that's liable to be a 3-2.
And it's amazing. Today was a trade deadline, and there was a lot of trades, a lot more trades than you ever saw in the NFL.
I wondered if I wondered if that was just me that felt that way, but it seems like it's an entirely different era now. I don't ever remember, and much like yourself, I'm a student of this game. I've followed the NFL for way more than half my life, more years than I care to count.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the trade deadline being this active.
No, this is very NBA-ish, very Major League Baseball-ish this year.
But you know why that is, though, don't you?
You go ahead and say your theory, and I got my theory.
Okay. You've got to look at it in terms of how do I say this without coming across wrong? It's all about getting the product out there, correct? It's all about projection, so to speak. Okay. The most projected sport in the world is not the NFL. The most projected sport in the world is the NBA. And the NBA is centered and very centric to the players. The players drive the NBA. The players drive Major League Baseball. The NFL is all about the shield. They control what you see, how you see it. Who makes the decisions in the NBA? And you're going to laugh when I say this, but I mean it literally. LeBron James.
All the stars.
Yeah.
You could say Kobe Bryant, Stephon Curry, or you could say almost any star you can think of. And yeah, they do make the decisions.
That's what's driving that league at this point. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't follow the NBA religiously like some. I just tell you what an outsider looking in perspective, so to speak. That's why you see a bigger movement now for players to be the commodity in the NFL. I don't think that you'll ever see it on the level that you do in the NBA, because I don't ever see the Shield giving up that much input / control, whatever you want to call it. I don't see the NFL giving up themselves to promote, so to speak, the players in that scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I think. Go ahead.
I was saying no, it's okay. My theory is this: the rookie salary cap affected the way they want to do trades now, because before you were generally trading players for players, and you had because of a salary cap, you had a salary you had to eat. Okay. The Raiders have 5 first-round draft picks over the next 2 years. All right. What you are seeing teams do now because of rookie salary cap, they don't have to worry about paying a $16 or $20 or $30 million contract to an unproven rookie because you're picking in the top 5 anymore. You already know how much money you're going to pay this guy. You're going to look at what the guy who got selected number 1 overall last year, Baker Mayfield, made. You add your little inflation increase that they do every year, but you know how much that number 1 overall pick is going to be worth, and you've got everything slotted. So draft picks are far more valuable now. So if you're a garbage team, and we're going to look at a team like the Raiders, for example. People are making fun of the Raiders because John Gruden is getting rid of all these good players, okay? But Gruden is looking at on the long term. I want to build my own team, and I want to build it with my players. So I'm going to get rid of a Khalil Mack. I'm going to get rid of an Amari Cooper. I'm going to get rid of good players that I can get draft picks for, and I can parlay those draft picks even more picks, and I'm going to have a cheap salary cap full of talented players that I drafted, but I'm going to have a cheap, overall salary budget that I can go pick out some key players that I'm going to want to add to my team. I'm ready to make that move. So I can get, I can pay something for a, let's just say, out of curiosity, I don't know, a top quarterback. No, they wouldn't do that. But let's say a top running back. You can get a top running back cheaper now, or pay a lot of money for a linebacker, or a lot of money for a cornerback, or something like that. You can get into those bidding wars with people now because you've got your core, your base is full of cheap players, and you do that because you have a salary cap for the rookies. You have a wage scale for the rookies. So what did we see this past week with all the trading stuff? We've seen a lot of people trade picks away. So now the rotten teams, the bad teams, have a slew of picks so they can get good again fairly quickly. And these teams that are trading these picks away are like poker chips. They're just going all in. I think I've got enough to make a deep run in the playoffs. And so, like the Saints, they don't have a first-round pick. They don't have a third-round pick. They don't have a fourth-round pick now for next year's draft. They have decided to get essentially Davenport for the first-rounder, Bridgewater for the third, and now Eli Apple for the fourth. They're willing to sacrifice a little bit of the future to win now because they are that close. They've got all the pieces. The bad teams, the teams that are one and whatever, like the Giants and the Raiders and the Browns and those kinds of, well, the Browns only have one win, but, even the Jaguars to an extent, because the Jaguars see what's going on. They need a quarterback. And the only way they're going to get a good quarterback is they have to be in the top half of the draft. They can't be in the bottom third of the draft and get a good quarterback. It's just not happening. So they will start unloading some of these players because they know they can't win. They can't win at Bortles. So you're going to see teams like that shuffle off good players to hoard draft picks so they have ammunition now to move up and down the draft and rebuild their roster. So that's why I think you're seeing more and more activity now in the trade market, because teams that are this close to winning a championship are willing to make those moves and burn off the draft picks, whereas teams that know, there's no way I'm going to win anything, I'm willing to sit through 1 in 15 seasons because I'm going to come back with a ton of draft picks and I can get good just like that, So that's my theory. That's how I see things.
Or at the very least, I don't give a damn if y'all like what I'm doing. I signed a 10-year contract, and in a year, I'm moving to another city. Y'all can deal with it.
That's right. And then you take a team like the Rams, for example. The Rams have to win because it's a good thing you mentioned, the Raiders moving to a new city. The Rams have to win because they're right now in a 100,000 seat mausoleum. The old Los Angeles Coliseum, which I actually like that stadium, but that's beside the point. That's 100,000 seats. Did you watch that Green Bay game, that Green Bay Rams game? Yeah. Did you watch any of that? There were more Packers fans in those stands than there were Rams fans. And now they can say,
how many times does an NFL franchise have to make a go of it in Los Angeles before you realize that it's not going to have long-term sustained success anymore?
They don't give a damn. All that matters is you're in the
when they complete that majestic new palace that they're building, and they ain't no asses every 18 inches to pay for it.
Oh, no, there will be. They're just going to be from other teams. Look at Dallas. Cowboys fans, there are no Cowboys fans. They're Cowboy bandwagoners. But if you go to a Dallas game, whenever Dallas is on TV, listen to the crowd. There's more people cheering for the opponent than there are people cheering for the Cowboys. It's not like the Dome. It's like going to Atlanta. Atlanta's the same way. They invite a lot of empty seats to every game.
At least we had forethought enough in the early days of the Superdome that we painted the seats different colors.
Yeah, so it looked like people on TV, on old VGA TV. Yeah, old cathode ray tube TV. Yeah, it looked like people in the stands. But yeah.
Well, let me ask you this.
But let me just say one last thing, though. But, the Rams are making these moves also because they're willing to burn off the future because they're trying to get people excited about the Rams. So they will get Rams fans in the seats. If they can't get Rams fans in the seats with a Super Bowl team, then they'll never get Ram fans in the seats. You look at the Chargers. The Chargers can't even sell out a 30,000-seat soccer stadium. If the Saints had to, God forbid, had to play in Yeoman Stadium, which is Tulane Stadium on campus, which is the same size as the stadium that the Chargers are playing in right now, you'd have 60,000 people pissed off because they couldn't go to the game on Sunday because that stadium only holds 30,000 people, and the Superdome holds anywhere between no, it doesn't hold that many. It hasn't held that many in a long time, but it can hold about 70,000 people there. So you're talking.
Held 93 for WrestleMania, but there's a few more seats than there is for Saints.
Yeah, because you don't have a 100-yard field out there. But yeah, I mean, it'll hold for Super Bowls. I think they said they can get up to like 80 or 81,000. They can get that many extra seats in there. But for a Saints game, it's roughly anywhere from 68 to 70,000, I think, is what they have for a Saints game. So, you're talking anywhere from 40 to 50,000 people pissed off, not counting. I was adding in the people who are on the waiting list. You'd have that many people pissed off because they can't go to a Saints game because the stadium's sold out. But the Chargers, they can't even fill that up. And there's talk about the Chargers moving back to San Diego now that Dean Spanos is dead because they're losing money there. So someone's got to make that stadium work, that big stadium they're building. So their attitude is the Rams have to make it work. So that's why the other reason why you see the Rams buying so many named players to put on the field because they want to win that championship to get people excited about watching the Rams play. This is not something where they can afford to have a building process. The fans are not going to be patient enough. You have 70,000 people in that Los Angeles Coliseum. It looks like there's nobody there. Just because that stadium is so massive.
And the Rams team that you're looking at right now is drastically different from the Rams team that you'll see in 2 to 3 years.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
All these rented players will be gone. Goff is going to be, of course, they'll retain Goff because he's a franchise quarterback. They'll retain Gurley. He's on a long-term deal. But you look at these wideouts, Brandon Cooks, the Woods.
That's a rental player. Woods is a rental player.
Yeah. These defensive backs, high names that they brought in,
Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters is the other one. Both of them are rentals. So is Sue. So is Fowler.
Yeah.
All these guys are rental players, and they're sacrificing their future for short-term success now because they need it. They have to have it.
They signed Dante Fowler because they pulled up the website that showed them the accurate depiction to the moment of what their salary cap was, and they still had 75 cents. So they said, we have to do something. That they could not have had any more. Well, maybe 95, but being conservative with the 75 cents, there is no way. I used to be impressed with Mickey Loomis. Whoever their GM is, he's.
But you're not worried about the future. That's the difference. For a team like the Saints and Mickey Loomis, he has to worry about the future. And we get in the salary cap hell whenever we make a mistake and have to cut somebody because the way Loomis structures contracts. But this guy isn't worried about the future. It's all about the now.
Yeah.
And we got to win now. And I'm impressed. They have not melted down yet. They've actually done very well. I thought by now we would have a civil war on that field, and we haven't had it yet. So I have to admit I was wrong about that.
I'm not going to admit that I was wrong or that you were wrong. I'm going to say this. We're halfway through the season, and they have yet to face adversity.
No, they haven't had to face adversity. They really haven't. They haven't had a slew of injuries either. It really tested their depth.
Yeah. I think going into this game on Sunday, you're going to see how do I word this? You're going to be able to see a lot more accurately. You know, we played the number one defense against the Redskins. We played the number one defense against the Ravens. We played the highly emotional powder keg against the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
This is a showdown, baby. This is number one and number two right here. I don't give a damn what any of those surveys or power rankings or anything. I don't care what all that. You're looking, or you will be looking, at the two best teams in the National Football League on Sunday afternoon when the Saints and the Rams square off. Do I think I was asked earlier today, do I think that the Saints legitimately have a chance? Not only do I think that the Saints can actually win this game.
I give the Saints a better chance to win this game than I give LSU to beat Alabama. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
I picked the Saints and the Tigers to win, actually.
I give the Tigers
for a lot of the same reasons. You know, you saying that, I never really gave it much consideration, but actually for some of the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama has never seen the type of team this season that they're going to be seeing, especially defensively, against LSU. When your games are decided by the end of the first quarter, this ain't a sprint. This is a marathon. Mike Tyson used to talk a lot about everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. But eventually, Mike Tyson ran up on that guy that got punched in the mouth and punched back. And the further into that fight that Buster Douglas took him, the worse it got for Tyson. Now, is LSU beating Alabama a long shot? Absolutely. Alabama is by far, head and shoulders, the best team in college football, the best team money can buy. Did I say that? But I said 6 weeks ago that Alabama would not go into Atlanta to that SEC championship game undefeated. I didn't say out loud that it was going to be LSU, but I firmly believe that Tiger Stadium at night can be daunting, and it can be the great equalizer. By the same token, having to come – two things. If you look back to the preseason, we played this Rams team in preseason. They left all of their starters at home. We saw what their depth is, and we skull-drugged them out of the Superdome. Okay. They haven't had to deal with injuries. They haven't had to play a very physical team yet either. If there's one thing that I can say about the Saints, the Ravens game, the Vikings game, were both very, very physical games by the Saints. And something else that could or could not enter into it. Every game that the Rams have played this season has been in their own time zone, with the exception of one trip to Denver, which is like across the mountain range. But
an hour difference, an hour timeline.
Yeah. Now they're going to have to come halfway across the country into what can conservatively be referred to as a very hostile environment, and play outside of themselves, play the best team that the league has going at the moment. They've got to face off against Drew Brees in an afternoon game in the Superdome. Is the task daunting? Yes, it is. I'm not going to make any two ways about that. You're going to have to stop Gurley, which I told Alan before we went on the air. If I was running the scout team for the Saints this week, Alvin Kamara would have been on the scout team, because that's exactly what we're facing in Todd Gurley. Everything that the Rams do offensively is off of what Gurley does.
Yeah.
Goff, we played maybe the best wide receiver core that we've seen all season Sunday night against the Vikings. You've got twice that coming in with the Rams, including an old familiar face that used to run fly patterns down the Superdome sideline in Brandon Cooks.
People aren't going to want to hear this, but Crawley has got to be healthy for this game, because, in my opinion, you need Crawley to be able to rotate with Eli Apple on the inside and the outside, because the Rams have Cooper Kupp coming back.
Yeah.
That Cooper Kupp in the slot is more dangerous than Diggs and Thielen. Even though they're the better receivers, Cooper Kupp operating out of the slot is far more dangerous. So I would like to see, and I can hear people screaming at me already, but I would like to see Crawley on the outside dealing with Robert Woods and Eli Apple dealing with Cooper Kupp. Okay, because at least with Crawley on the outside, I can rotate my safety to help him and let Lattimore deal with Brandon Cooks one-on-one. I know they'll move him around all over the place so you get different matchups. But the less P.J. Williams we have to see out there, the better. Going back to what you were talking about at the beginning of the broadcast, I would rather take my chances with Crawley out there over P.J. Williams and let Eli Apple deal with the nickel, the slot receiver. I don't want Eli Apple on the outside the whole game and having Williams and Crawley take turns on the slot guy. I don't want that, because that's not a good recipe.
Well, we saw this team a year ago. Basically, with the exception of Cooks, basically the same receiving core. I take that back. Woods was inactive last year due to injury.
Woods was hurt.
We did see Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
We played this team a year without either of our starting cornerbacks.
Right.
Lattimore was out. Crawley was out. Their passing game, Goff is way, way better than what we saw out of Kirk Cousins. And maybe the tiebreaker, if you want to consider it that, the closest, everybody makes such a big deal about what an offensive guru Sean Payton is. The closest thing in the NFL to Sean Payton, to and including first names, is Sean McVay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This is so close when you compare it apples to apples.
Yeah, and the whole now you're making me cough. The key to stopping the Rams, in my opinion, is to take away. You have to get Gurley out of this game. I don't know how it's going to happen, but you have to take Gurley away as a runner and especially as a receiver, because what the Rams like to do are a lot of bootlegs where they throw to Gurley underneath and let Gurley get yards after the catch. And this means to Mario Davis, if he has the responsibility of Gurley, not only does he have to limit Gurley in his receptions, but as soon as Gurley catches the ball, you have to bring him down right then and there. You have, and this is where P.J. Williams might fit in. Williams, is more than willing to, for somebody who had a severe concussion 3 years ago, he is more than willing to throw his body all over the field. And, that is one good thing he does. He is a pretty good tackler. But, yeah, you have to limit the impact Gurley has in the game, because if Gurley's having a big game, we don't stand a chance, because we can't afford to get into a shootout with the Rams, because their defense overall is better than ours. Our offensive line has to dominate the Rams' defensive line as much as they can, and the best way they can do that is with a running game where, like we saw in the Vikings game, the Vikings knew the run was coming, and by the end of the game, they couldn't stop Ingram. That's where Ingram got the bulk of his yards, because they got worn down. It's going to be a slow, ugly game, just like what we saw with Baltimore, just like what we saw with Minnesota, because the game plan is going to be, we're going to keep that offense on the sidelines and wear that defense out with long drives. It's going to be very 2006, in my opinion. And that's how the Saints are going to try and win this ball game, with a lot of ball control, running the football, and Michael Thomas and Tre'Quan Smith and Ben Watson getting passes to extend drives, not for the big play. They may take a couple of shots because you're in the dome, but for the most part, it's going to be these long drives. You slow the game down, and I can hear Jim Moore. I can see Jim Moore smiling from here. His attitude, where we're going to have to keep that offense off the field, and it's going to be frustrating. But that's, I think, the game plan to beat these guys. That's my keys. My keys are the running game for the Saints. Offensive linemen have to dominate the Rams' defensive line, and Dominic Davis, Eli Apple, and Ken Crawley have to have. I'm sorry, Demario. I keep saying Demario. Demario Davis has to. Ken Crawley and Eli Apple have to have good games where they handle their responsibilities. Because I think you might see another big sack out of Davenport, at least one or two big sacks of Goff, Jared Goff, because when I was watching what the Packers were doing to him, that was I hadn't seen too many people do that to Goff this year. Make him hold that ball. Make him hold that ball a little bit longer.
Goff can be gotten to. I didn't believe that so much as I did after watching Green Bay play the other day. And he's a kid. This is only his third year. If you get to him, he can be rattled. We saw that his rookie year in the Superdome. Now, times change, people change. I get that, but I believe that you, as you said, you put those long, sustained drives on together, and you beat on that defense. People are going to get tired. They're going to get careless, maybe.
To me, that's why Green Bay lost the game. Green Bay couldn't run the ball enough, and he had that fumble at the end of the game. Aaron Rodgers had a shot to beat those guys. And you watch that whole game. I mean, that's the key. What?
That's why Ty Montgomery's unemployed today.
Yeah, exactly. That is why Ty Montgomery's not there anymore. It's the Packers' fault. They haven't drafted a running back. But we have better running backs than what the Packers had.
I think we're a better team than Green Bay. And Green Bay had that game won.
Yeah, they did. So there's a lot to see in that game for how the Saints can beat the Rams. They're not unstoppable.
No.
And you've got Drew Brees, who is a better quarterback on a better team than Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Absolutely. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We've gone way over as per our norm.
Yes, we did.
Once again, I want to invite everybody that is able, please come out and see us, say hello, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are. Tell us you can't stand listening to us, but you just can't pull yourselves away from us every Tuesday night. Whatever. Come out to Empastados, meet us, meet the Saints guys. We're
the coat check guys. You really out there to meet the Saints guys. We're just the coat check guys.
Well, we weren't supposed to tell that until they got there, but
yeah,
okay. If this was a dramatic happening, we would be the comedy relief, but we'll take that.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We invite you once again to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. We love you guys. We are nothing without you. Let us know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Let us hear from you. And to you, Mr. Ulrich.
Well, I know it set some people off when I was talking about LSU losing to Alabama. So, I'm sure I'm going to get comments off of that. But anyway, we shall see. This weekend is a very special weekend for Louisiana football in general.
Yes.
This is probably going to be the best 2 nights. And Sean Payton, in fact, said he is glad we're playing a 3:30 game. We haven't played a noon game since the Giants game back on September 30th. We haven't played a noon kickoff Saints game in a month.
Redskins was noon.
No, Redskins was Monday Night Football.
No.
Yeah, Redskins.
Yes, it was. You're right. That was the record game.
Yes.
I apologize.
We haven't played a noon game in a month. So we won't play a noon game until November 11th. So anyway, Sean Payton said he's glad the LSU game is at 7 and the Saints game is at 3 because that gives people 2 days to really prepare themselves. They can get all worked up Saturday night for the LSU-Alabama game, sleep in Sunday, show up just as energized for the Saints game, later that afternoon, and then you have to take a day off Monday because you can be exhausted for 2 games back to back.
That's really a rare occurrence. It's not very often that you have the same weekend that the Saints and the Tigers both play at home.
Right. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's been an unusual season. I've noticed that as I've watched the preview shows in the morning, I'm just like, man, Saints game isn't even on today. Oh, Saints game's on this afternoon at 3. So it's been a fun month of October. We played 3 games, and we're halfway through the toughest part of the season. Thank you guys for joining us. Be at Empastados on Saturday, November 3rd. Talking all these Sunday things. Saturday, November 3rd. Empastados is we have it on our site here. What time? 5? Is that what you're saying? 5 o'clock?
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Thank you. 5 to 7. So the game will just start by the time this wraps up. And hint, Empastados is a place where a lot of Saints players used to hang out in the 70s. They got TVs there. So, you're going to be able to see the LSU-Alabama game there. So there's really no excuse for you not to go unless you have tickets to the game. You should be at this event Saturday night. Anyway, that being said, it'd be a great night. Look it up on the web, the exact address for Empastados Restaurant in Metairie, and we will see you there Saturday. We will see you Sunday at the game, and we will see you next Tuesday on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.